Hey everybody, I'm Amanda with DevExpress and welcome to 16.1 Webinar Week and today's webinar, What's New for Reporting and Dashboards, presented by DevExpress CTO Julian Bucknall and DevExpress Technical Evangelist Paul Usher. In today's session, Julian and Paul will show off the new features we'll introduce across our reporting and dashboard platforms. All right, thank you so much for joining us. I will now hand things over to Julian and Paul.
Thank you, Amanda, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 3 in our What's New in version 16.1. And I do believe Julian is with me again today.
I do believe I am, and hello, Paul, and hello, everybody on the line. Welcome to day 3. As Paul says, this is What's New in version 16.1 for reporting and dashboards. And I'd have to say, speaking personally here, that dashboards are one of the most important things that we add to applications these days. I would say data analysis has become more and more important over the past 2, 3, 4 years. And with dashboards and reporting, we're actually providing more and more data and analytical type functionality for your end users so that they can get at information rather than looking at a grid of data, for example.
I think very much the lines are beginning to blur between those products, Julian. Certainly we've got so much more information coming across our desks every day. We're collecting everything through a number of different systems, whether it's monitoring, whether it's statistics, just so much data. We're not talking about thousands of rows anymore, but quite often we're talking about hundreds of thousands or millions. And what I find really interesting is reporting, dashboard, you can throw those two things around. For some people, reporting is dashboards, and for other, dashboards are reports. Now, I had a scenario this week where I saw a native written iPad application which was using the embedded web view to call out to a web server which hosted a DevExpress dashboard viewer, which was therefore displaying some beautiful information inside the iPad, and they'd customized it to the nth degree. It just looks so beautiful, and you sort of think, well, it's the perfect example of utilizing back-end server technologies with the likes of our dashboard controls and keeping things in the hands of the C-suite and the managers.
And in fact, you bring up an important point there, is that reporting and dashboards is by nature multi-platform. It's not necessarily just creating a client, thick client application on your Windows box. Dashboards are designed to be representing some kind of information on the device that you actually have in your hands or is on your desk. And we, with our solutions for dashboards and reporting, it's all about multi-platform. It's not necessarily just Windows or ASP.NET or DevExtreme and just pure client side. It's across the board. And your example there of the iPad, an iPad application displaying basically a web page, which is our dashboard, is excellent.
Of course, when we did the presentation a few weeks ago, I also showed a couple of photos of some of the other things customers have been doing with big screens on walls and driving that huge volume of information to the people that matter. But today's all about what's new in 16.1. So why don't we take a look? Now, I'm going to start out with data access. And you might be thinking, well, what does data access have directly to do with reports and dashboards? I mean, behind the scenes with all our data aware controls, we've got a powerful data access library. So since it doesn't warrant its own presentation or its own webinar, I wanted to make sure that we made a call out to some of the things that are happening inside that library, because obviously they do affect the report designers, the dashboard designers, and other things. So the first thing I want to mention is the new visual query builder for WinForms. Imagine being given a powerful and straightforward way to visualize the structure of your SQL or your schema. The query builder itself uses our new diagram control that we've been showing off this week to display the tables, the columns, the keys relationships, as I said, that schema, in a fashion that allows you to get a really good visualization of it. Now, if you think back to if you played with the likes of Microsoft Access or the Visual Studio Dataset Designer, that's the type of view that you get from playing with the Visual Query Builder. There's then enhancements inside the data source wizard. We've actually improved the interface, iWizard customization, to allow extra methods for accessing things like the integrity container.
The integrity container? Is that like a jam jar for integrity?
It's more like a dictionary that enables the presenters and viewers to access required services. But it's back to that whole concept we've talked about a few times of the back-of-house services, that the improvements to those underlying libraries that we so readily need but quite often don't get to see.
In fact, that's an important point, is that a lot of these things you're seeing here on this particular page or this particular slide is because we are extracting out this infrastructure into different data access libraries, and we'll see in a minute the export library and things like that. We're starting to, recognize that these infrastructural pieces are used across the board on our data-aware controls, as well as reporting and dashboards and designers and what have you. So you'll see a lot of this happening we've seen a lot of it happening over the past couple of major releases, and certainly with this release you're seeing this infrastructural change appearing in our bigger libraries.
Absolutely. Next thing we want to talk about is the expression editor, again cross-platform. We've now implemented it so that when you're editing expressions, you will see a pop-up menu that will list all the available items grouped by categories. It features other things such as powerful syntax highlighting. There's context-sensitive help and functions such as tooltips that show you examples on how to call, what the signature methods are, and the different descriptions that are required. It will show you a visualization of errors, so you get the squiggly lines if you've got something in there that's not correct. All those things driving productivity for the end user when they're using the expression editor. There's been some improvements to the SQL data source. Now the table query class has been replaced by a select query class. And this allows you to drive things now such as expressions within your select statements, support for the asterisk to return all the columns from a particular table. We've added support for the order by inside expressions, selecting distinct, as well as things such as aggregate functions, so distinct counts, distinct averages, etc. That's all inside the WinForms Query Builder, the WinForms Query Builder has been updated to support those items inside that data source. And then there's other enhancements inside the data source, such as you can now close a connection after you've filled or populated your query. You've got the ability to specify timeouts for the command object. You can have an option to execute and validate all your queries simultaneously, and an option to fill only your selected queries. So powerful things that drive the performance behind the scenes of some of those items. Next, I want to make a quick call out to Report Server. Now, for those that aren't aware or don't quite know a lot about Report Server, it's our enterprise-grade reporting solution. It's designed with end users in mind. It gets hosted on an IIS box and administered with the option that you can generate reports, you can have reports run on schedules or ad hoc, you can have those reports delivered in various formats as attachments or embedded or links back to the server, to your C-suite or your management team. In 16.1, we've seen changes to the query builder. We've got an improved message template parameters feature in there. You've now got the ability to cancel empty reports. You've got the ability to export your reports to shared folders. There's a new control template gallery, and of course one of the things we've talked about with our exporting engine that's been constantly worked on is improved export to rich text format, or RTF. So lots happening there. And if you haven't seen Report Server, certainly check it out either on the website, or if you can download a trial and have a play. It is a great C-suite management tool. Next on my little list is the document server. Again, a non-visual library that allows you to work with PDF files, XLS files, doc files. It's got some other great little utilities in there. And because this library is what's behind some of our visual components, like the PDF viewer, there's the changes that we've seen in web and inside the WinForms control. So PDF has now got the support for JPEG image format support. We've added transparency group support and support for Type 3 fonts. If you haven't had to use those things, then that's cool. But we've obviously, the driving need is what we hear from our customers as to, hey, I've got a PDF document that's got this particular image format, we need it supported. Next is the Rich Edit Document Automation Library. Julian showed a couple of these things off in the visual elements on Monday in the WinForms or WPF presentation. Again, for fullness, we've got it here just in the non-visual libraries, the ability to read and write document attributes, the powerful document iterator, and added document theme support. And as Julian mentioned before as well, changes to the Excel export library, we've now added table export. But this is where the fun begins, because now we get to look at dashboards and reporting. And as usual, we managed to flip a coin earlier this week to decide who was doing what, and I got the cool stuff with dashboards.
I think it was a double-headed coin, but I'm just, okay, I accept. I accept the challenge.
Excellent. So what's changed in version 16.1 for dashboards? Well, the thing to remember is the fact that dashboard really does talk about cross-platform. We've got the web designer, we've got the desktop designer. Now previously the web designer was in alpha, and in 16.1 it's moved up a big step into beta, and that's thanks to a lot of feedback from all the people that have started to use it. There's been a lot of UI customization and improvements for that end user presentation layer. I'm going to be jumping into the designer in a little while just to show you around, before we'll step through the list a little bit more. Now in 16.1 we've also got some changes with data analysis. Obviously when you're dealing with a lot of data or you're wanting to do some complex calculations, sometimes it's a matter of trying to fiddle through SQL and say build some complex queries and try and debug that data. Well, we're trying to make that even easier for you now, and we've done that by the way of introducing some window calculations. Basically, we're providing a way for you to solve a wide range of highly demanded analytical tasks, such as moving average, running totals, percentage totals, parallel periods, ranks, etc. And of course, as you've seen with some of our other tools, we've also given you the ability that you can define your own if what we've provided in the list doesn't quite fit. And I'll show you when we get to the dashboard designer just how you can use or set up some of those particular features. But that's, again, just allowing you to drive some more direct functionality into your dashboard. Now, data binding. What do I mean by data binding? Well, we're releasing a new data extract function or tool in this next release. I want you to think about the fact I mentioned earlier that which can be talking millions of rows sometimes, or hundreds of thousands of rows. If you think about what has to happen when you open a dashboard file, the actual preparation behind that, such as getting the data, performing the indexing, sorting it, compressing that raw data back, and the fact that that preparation has to be done every time the dashboard is open. And that's going to have an effect. It's going to slow down the opening of the file quite considerably. Add to that the support for web forms or web applications where you've got multiple users, you've got multiple sessions, which in turn is going to start dragging down and be really intensive use of the CPU and memory resources with multiple users. So the guys sat around and went, what are the different ways that we can actually tackle this problem? So in 16.1 we're going to introduce something called the data extract, which basically will prepare the raw data in advance and store it on disk in a data extract file. Now the beauty there is that file can be shared between user sessions in a multi-user environment. It can be used with all of the data sources that we support with the exception of OLAP. I've got a quick slide I want to display here just to give you an idea as to the type of performance differences you can expect with some of the samples we've been running. On the left-hand side, we've got the loading time of a standard document. The left-hand bar shows the loading time of about 48 seconds of the normal in-memory preparation. Using the data extract method, we were able to get that load time under 10 seconds or around 10 seconds. So that's a significant improvement in time for a really large data source, database, and dashboard file. But I think what's probably more important to consider is the graph on the right-hand side, which is a compound number of users opening the same file and memory consumption. So if you had 30 users opening that file, your memory usage is starting to grow rapidly. Now, anybody that's played with a multi-user environment understands memory is something that's pretty critical. You start having to use swap files, your performance of your server starts going down, and it can cause all sorts of dramas. What you'll notice here is how stable that memory usage is with the new method that is being introduced. So that's something I think is really quite exciting for those high performance needs. We've introduced a compact theme for the web viewer. Basically imagine that you've got radio buttons, you've got checkboxes, different filter elements inside your dashboard control. The compact theme reduces the amount of real estate that those elements will take. So you can still provide the usability to your users, but not taking up a lot of space on the actual real estate or display. We've added some visualization options, and I'm going to show you these in real life shortly, but the ability to do data binding to text boxes and image controls. So you can actually provide more of a descriptive or informational view on a dashboard, and you'll see exactly what I mean shortly. There's a number of miscellaneous things happening behind the scenes. For example, we've added support for high DPI in the WinForms viewer. We've added the ability for you to include your filter state in your exported Excel file. There's some new coloring available for the PyMap and the range filter. And did I mention range filter? It's pretty much been reimagined, redesigned. And the range filter in 16.1 has some really cool new features. For example, it allows you to store or provide a preset range of dates. It now supports a full bar stack or additional chart types on the actual filter control itself. And again, we'll see that in use in just a few seconds. In fact, I think what we should do, Julian, is jump over and start having a look at some of those dashboard controls.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm running the dashboard demos directly from the demo center. I know that people that have listened to a few of these presentations probably get sick of it, but the demos themselves are actually stored on your machine when you install our products under the C drive, users, public documents. You'll see the DevExpress folder. It's stock standard for us to do that, and it means that you guys get to see exactly what's going on. You get to play with the demos, and you get to do other things. So if I just go to my C drive, users, public documents, and for each version of the tools, the DevExpress tools you have installed, you'll have a demos folder, and you can get access to all of our sample applications. You get to see how the engineering teams have put them together and how you can utilize some of that code. So I'm going to start out by taking a quick look at the web designer, which of course, as I mentioned before, is now in beta or beta. We've got a new improved set of samples. We can see this dashboard viewer here. I've got some nice preset examples you can work through. I mentioned the range control before. We can see a beautiful example at the bottom. Of course, this control's been around. You can move it along. It's got a nice snap to now to pick ranges. You can see that we're talking about a stacked bar option here. What is really nice is the addition of this little icon down in the bottom corner, which allows me to select from preset periods. So I can say, just give me the last 6 months, and we can see that it's automatically going to jump to and do that. Or give me the quarter to date, and it will do that as well. With full support for the user to be able to select a custom date range if they want. Now what's really nice about this is that you can control what periods are shown in here. You can create your own, and I'll show you how to do that in the Windows Designer shortly. As we step through, invoke the designer. Now this is the part that is the beta part of it, and it's come along in leaps and bounds. There's so much functionality that you can now work with. Highlighting a section, you can drag that element to anywhere else on the layout that you want. You can see from the hamburger menu, I can access, create new ones, save them out, set parameters, work with my data sources. In the toolbox, I've got the ability to add a new element to the chart. If I wanted to add a gauge, simply click. The gauge element is going to be added here. I can work through these options. So clicking on the settings icon, I can come along and nominate the type of gauge I want. I can nominate the binding, the series. Moving down to the lower of the screen, I can come through and set the datering and filtering. So everything that you've sort of become used to inside the Windows desktop application, you can come through. It's got options, turn the captions on or off. Set, in this case, I chose gauge, so I get to choose the type of gauge that I actually want. So that's really quite powerful. If I try to move off there, oh sorry, one thing I want to make a call out to here is the undo redo stack. I was playing around a little early with Julian and adding things, and I was like, I want to undo that. We've got full support for undo and redo, so you can step back through your changes. It's got notification if I try and move back and say switch to the viewer. It's going to say, hey, you've made changes, do you want to save that? So quite a rich UI presentation for the end user. I'm going to load the product details dashboard now. And this is using a couple of those new things that I talked about. So here I can filter my data down to a particular product, and we can see that I've got more of a data sheet about the product. Not necessarily the thing you'd think of a dashboard. I've still got my beautiful dashboard elements on the right here, the chart showing the different sales, etc. But I've got some key information as to what's going on, and this is linked directly to that individual product. So I'm going to show you in just a second how you can implement that into your dashboards as well. What I'm going to do is switch onto the desktop designer and create a new dashboard, link it to some local SQL data, and I'll just select the AdventureWorks database. Run Query Builder, and I will pick up my product database. Actually, we'll go for sales order header. Pick up all the columns, and I'm now set to be working inside my data. I'm going to bring up the grid control. Actually, I don't want the grid. I want to show you how to set the periods inside the range filter. So when you add the range filter onto your element, you might want something, maybe customer ID as a value. And what I'm really interested in here is the order date as an argument. I can change this and say that I want maybe month and year, So we can see how the filter control, or the range filter is going to be implemented. Now I can either right-click on the element here and select Edit Periods, or I can click on the settings icon here. And we've got the Edit Periods dialog showing. At this point, if I wanted to, I could jump in and nominate this year, or last year, last 2 years, last quarter, this quarter, and this month. So here I can specify each of the different periods I want to add. I've got the ability of nominating one that I want as my default, and I can also jump in and edit and really get down to a granular level to select those types of things. And of course, once you've done that, then they're the items that will be shown inside the context menu when the user is working with the dashboard as well. The designer for the detail I wanted to show you. Now I've switched into edit mode here, and we can see that I've got this element having some GoToWebinar issues at the moment. So I'll switch back to this after we've had a talk to Julian while I just correct my screen resolution. So Julian, while I look at that, let's talk about reporting.
Indeed. So let me just grab control here of everything. Says he not being able to grab control of anything at the moment. There we go. Right. I'll make myself the presenter and show my screen. There we go. Right. .NET reporting. So what have we got under this particular rubric? So with WPF Report Designer, a couple of new ideas here coming in. We have UI localization, so no longer do you have to present your report designer in English to your users. You can give them your German version or French version or whatever it happens to be. We've added a new table control to the report designer. I'll be showing you that in a moment. Basically, the table control is a way of displaying grid-like data. We've added code completion to the end user report designer. So script editor, if your end user likes writing scripts or needs to write scripts, we now have code completion there. Makes it easier and faster for them to write their scripts. We display context-aware hints when necessary, depending on what they're typing in. Right to left support, a big one. A couple of days ago, Paul and I, in our Windows Forms and WPF, basically showed you what we had for right to left support. The big problem about showing off right to left support is I can't read or write Arabic or Hebrew, so what I'm going to do is just, why not? I flunked that at school. How about that? So here's a quick example image showing right to left support inside our end user report designer for WinForms. So as you see, we're using our normal controls but in an RTL manner. So the ribbon, for example, up here is right to left. We have a tree view here, right to left, and so on and so forth. So this is the designer for if your end users are speaking Arabic or Hebrew, they can design reports, and the reports will come out as right to left type support and all that. So that's part and parcel of WinForms. And what else have we got? Oh, moving over to the web now. What we have on the web is the ability to have a new control, which is the table of contents control. So you can create your reports and drop a table of contents control on them, and that will generate a table of contents for the report itself. A couple of things I'm going to be showing you are the label reports wizard. Great way of creating label reports if you have to create address labels or such like from your data. We now have a nice wizard which will help with that, make it much easier. And the format string editor is a vital necessity for end users. Otherwise you're going to have to teach them how to write format strings. And even us programmers have difficulty writing format strings with the different varieties of format strings that we use. Paul,
that's where Google is your friend.
That's where Google is your friend, yes. Teach your end users to use Google. You just pinged me to say that your demo is ready. So before I jump into my demos, let's quickly jump back to you and show off what you have.
Okay. I want to demonstrate the dashboard designer with the new features of image binding and binding any field into a text property basically. So I'm doing it inside WinForms at the moment for simplicity. Here we've got the actual dashboard that we were looking at before on the web, and we've got the ability with the filter to swap products. So quite a nice little example. Here's some information about the product, a couple of pictures, and the sales information. What I'm going to do is invoke the designer by clicking Edit, and we've got the dashboard designer as so. Now, the image controls themselves, it's a matter of binding the appropriate URL to the image element which is available in the toolbar ribbon or ribbon bar here. But really what I want to point out is this text editor. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to invoke edit, and we can see that the items, as I click on each field, you can see from the list of available fields right here. So the values available to me are what's in this column. So if I wanted to, obviously you wouldn't particularly do this because it's in a different table, but I want to make another field available. I'm going to drag it into that value element, and then when I click here, we can see that that field's been added to my drop-down list. So it pretty much is a write some text, and then you can right-click and insert field and choose the element that you want. So really quite a nice way of being able to display additional information, a little bit different to what you might expect with a dashboard, but straight away I can see some real-world use cases that people will be able to take control of that. So I think that makes a big difference. Whilst I'm in the dashboards, I'm going to steal Julian's thunder for a second. We've updated some of the we've updated some of the controls here. The one I was showing you before with the custom periods, again working in WinForms, and just again another way to allow your end users to really visualize important information. This is a sample dashboard for customer support, so active tickets across a wide range of platforms. Now I just want to point out at the moment, if I drill down on mobile, that it will then do the drill down and show me how many tickets or issues I've got per support engineer. I can then drill back up. So that's quite a nice drill down functionality to get more information, not cramping the style of the dashboard, and of course things that you can see that the filter has been applied. You can reset or drill back up to that information. And that's what I wanted to show, Julian. So we can now switch back to you for some report web designer goodness.
Okay, let me grab the screen back again, and this is where I was, .NET reporting, and also for the web we also have the code completion feature that I was talking about for WinForms, and also right to left support in the designer for the web. So now let's do a quick bit of see what's available and give you some examples. So let me jump over to our demo center here. I'm going to jump into the WPF reports to begin with. One of the time-saving features that we've added to the WPF side of the tool is I don't know where it went. Oh, here it is. Apologies, is the table control. What I've got here is a master detail report, and as you see, we're basically showing a lot of information in a tabular type format. So the master is this particular table here, very small table, two rows. One is the column headers, obviously, and then we have the detail side of things where we're displaying column headers and then various details. If I run the report designer now, so as you can see, it's essentially the table control here is essentially a grid for your reports. And here's the designer. You can see the tables we've added to the report to make it easier for you to visually design your report. So there's a table here, and the table consists of a row or a couple of rows, and we have lots of different cells. And the nice thing about using a table control for displaying data like this is that we take care of making sure things are lined up. You don't have to drop a whole bunch of labels and hope they all fit and line up and so on and so forth. So here's the detailed table here, and the various rows and what we're displaying inside the rows and what have you. So table control for WPF reporting. Let's jump out of this. We don't need that anymore. Now I'm going to jump into the ASP.NET side of things. Let me drag this over. And what I'm going to do here is jump over to the label report demo. So here we are, simple enough label, and I'm going to go into the report designer. And first thing I want to show you is the new format string editor. So here we have a field within our label. The field is unit price, comes from our data source. So it's the unit price of whatever product we're talking about here. And I'm going to jump over here to the data binding side of things. So we're data binding to this particular field. And here's the format string. And in the old days prior to version 16.1, you basically had to teach your end users the format of the format string, or the language of the format string, how to create a format string. No longer you can now give them access to the format string editor, and they decide, well, okay, it's a number and I want to display it like this. Is that the right way I want to do it? Maybe it should be like that, or maybe it's this, or it's a currency really, and I want to, so on and so forth. You're essentially giving them a way of selecting the format and allowing them to preview what it's going to look like before they add it to the report. And if they want to, they can edit their own formats. If they've learned enough, shall we say, to shoot themselves in the foot, they can certainly add their own formats and use their own formats. But this gives them an easy way of selecting the most basic ones, the most common ones, and using those inside. In this case, it's a label, but it could be, within a table control or something like that. So here we are. Let me select this option and create a new label report now. And this is, I'm using the wizard. The wizard is going to prompt me for things. Now, we all know how labels work. We buy them in bulk from our office supply store, and they have a certain set of formats. Here, I use mostly Avery standard. And the one I tend to use mostly is the Avery 8160 standard, which is a dress label. It's a 1 inch by 2 5/8 inches because I'm in America. So the 8160 jet address form. So it's 1 by 2 and 5/8. It's on letter paper, and the letter paper is obviously 8.5 by 10, by 11, I should say. Click Next will give you a visual representation of what the labels look like. Essentially, here's the width, and you could, if you wanted to, but obviously you don't, change the various options for the labels. And once we finish, the label report wizard gives us the usual design of surface, and we can start dropping things onto the form here, maybe an image and so on and so forth. I haven't actually got a data source attached to this yet, so I'm just dropping things on the form without actually attaching them to any data. But the the label report wizard gives you an easy way, or gives your end user the easy way of designing labels for their reports. And that's pretty much it for the demos I've got to show you with regard to reporting. So any questions? And
there's been lots of questions, and the teams have been answering them. Excellent. A couple I'm just waiting on clarification for. Here's one for the CTO. Is the WPF report designer considered full release or still in CTP or beta?
It's in full release at this particular point in time, yes. I thought it was in full release for the last version, but I'd have to check back on my notes. It's certainly in full release for 16.1.
There's a question here. Is the label report only available in 16.x? No. Well, yes and no. For web, it is only available in 16.1, but we have had the label report wizard in the desktop software version for quite some time.
In essence, the way we work with reporting is that there is one team that does reporting across all the platforms. So they'll do something for one platform and then migrate it to other platforms and so on and so forth. The issue with the web is, the amount of design work that has to go ahead, the amount of JavaScript and so on and so forth to actually display this kind of wonderful, wizardry in your browser.
Other questions? Are we able to obtain the custom periods via code? And the custom range filter periods are available via code, yes. Now, if I haven't, or if we haven't answered a particular question yet, it simply means that we're just waiting for some more technical expertise than I can offer or Julian can offer right this second. Okay, important question for you, Mr. CTO. When is 16.1 going to be released?
Wouldn't you like to know? Well, it's going to be very soon. We're in the last throes of doing our testing. We released Beta 2, Monday morning, wasn't it? It was halfway through our preparation for Monday's webinar, so 2 days ago. So Beta 2 is out. If you're a Universal or DXperience customer, please, please, please download it. Try it out in a VM on your particular code. Let us know any issues, feedback that you have. Obviously, the sooner you do that, the more time we will have to maybe fix bugs that we haven't noticed yet before we do the release. The release is very close. You should see my inbox. In fact, Paul told me I couldn't look at my email this morning because of the number of emails. It's one of those things about releasing a new product. I'm sure you all are very aware of it. The last hours before you release are full of, oh my God, this needs changing, that needs changing, the other needs, So we're in that stage. I've yet to see a development team that basically, gets it all ready 2 days before and, basically relax. No, I have never seen a development team like that.
Now, there's a few people asking about XAF. what I would really recommend if you want to see what's new in XAF, there is a document that Julian, I think you put up earlier in the week on the What's New page. There is a link to it if you download the beta version as well, showing exactly what's new across all of the platforms. Yeah, and again, because we've got so many platforms to look after, there's changes in CodeRush, there's changes in XAF, we've covered document server. The guys are doing HTML JavaScript tomorrow, I believe, Julian.
That's right. This is the third one of our webinars. The fourth one is tomorrow, same time, same channel, and it's What's New for HTML5 and Mobile. And doing that will be Mehul Hari and Don Wibier. And so please register for that. Come see what we've got. Let me do the obligatory cough here. Cough, Angular 2, cough. And see what else we have for HTML5 and mobile.
Well, don't forget that in, I think, a fortnight from today, you and I are going to build an application using Angular 2 and TypeScript.
Absolutely. We're throwing out all I know about JavaScript, well, not quite all, and using TypeScript, and you are going to be teaching me Angular 2. So it's going to be an interesting webinar. So register for that as well.
It's going to be fun. One question here from Rob. Can you elaborate on the file that is used locally to increase the data load performance? What I can say, Rob, is that any day now is a very detailed blog post coming out that explains exactly how the data extract works. It goes into a lot of detail on what's going on. So if you have specific questions about it, then once you've had a read of that, please get in touch with us. Of course, we're always available at the support center. The teams work tirelessly there. And we just love the feedback that we get from the users, like driving the new features, there's been some great thoughts just looking through the question list as to can we consider putting filter elements inside the dashboard rather than losing real estate on it, like I'm not going to say common sense things, but things that would make sense in certain scenarios. And that's the feedback that the engineering team love to hear, and how we can streamline some of these things. So,
and in fact, that's very important. A lot of the stuff that we actually produce is due to feedback from customers like yourselves. So please tell us your horror stories about using our product so we can make our product better for not only you but everybody. So give us feedback. Here's where I am, Julian B at DevExpress.com. I'm on Twitter at JMBucknall, and Paul is there, Paul U at DevExpress.com, and on Twitter at DXAustralia. We're obviously there on Facebook, and we ping every now and then, tweet every now and then on Twitter as DevExpress. Support, obviously support at DevExpress.com or DevExpress.com/support if you want to do it online. We'd love to hear from you. Really, we don't like coming up with ideas on our own because sometimes our ideas are just very specific to us. We need to hear from our customers, so please do provide feedback.
Now there are still a couple of questions waiting to be answered. As I said before, if we haven't got to you, we're just waiting on the correct technical response. My answer is going to be, as usual, yeah, absolutely, we could do that. And then go, oh dear team, how can we implement it? Does the report designer convert the data into XML? I think, Mark, do you mean when it's being serialized into the browser, or I'm not quite sure what you're asking, if you could maybe give us some more clarification. James asked, have we made any changes to the automation scheduler and delivery? I'm going to assume that you mean via for report server, and the changes to report server as far as delivery were things like the ability to cancel the blank reports and increase the schedule report parameters. I'm not sure if there's anything in particular you're waiting on or need with the automation scheduler. So James, please reach out to Julian or myself for a bit more detail. Does the Visual Query Editor support different database engines? I've actually answered, oh, sorry, the Visual Query, I'd answered this on Report Server before. My understanding, I'm looking for team support here, my understanding is the Visual Query Editor supports any of the data sources that we support. But I'd like clarification from the team, and we will go back and answer that one. We've answered the WPF Report Designer. For Scott, Julian said it is released. So if there are any questions on that one, again, please feel free to get back in touch. Some more XAF, I mean, it said ZAF, some more XAF questions. The blog post that I was referring to will be coming to the blogs, so devexpress.com. There's a blogs icon on the right-hand side. It will be posted there in the coming days. It's just having some more final checks done on it. But certainly thank you to everybody that participated today. It's always exciting with the large number of questions that we get through. And thanks to the team that's also here online answering them feverishly as well.
Indeed.
Amanda.
Hey, guys. I'm still here. Did you see Dave's suggestion that we make Amanda, I Love Amanda t-shirts?
Well, and he wants an extra large.
Yeah. It's already requesting sizes. Yeah. I said we'd have to get that puppy designed. That might take a while.
I'm not sure how I feel about a worldwide, sort of flurry of I Love Amanda t-shirts, being worn on beaches across the world.
Oh my God.
Awesome.
Well, that would be really funny.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, and everyone. Check out devexpress.com/webinars for our remaining 16-point webinar, which Julian touched on, is tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. What's new for HTML5 and mobile, presented by Mehul Harry and Don Wibier. And there's a couple other upcoming webinars there as well that you can register for. And like I mentioned previously, today's webinar will also be available on our DevExpress YouTube channel. I will post that link in the chat box. And that is it for this one. Thank you so much to Paul and Julian. Thank you all for joining us. And of course, thank you for choosing DevExpress. Bye-bye.